Hi everybody, it has been a while and I'm so sorry. I have been waiting to feel better, which is really not the smartest thing to do during this treatment because for the first couple of months it kind of only gets harder, it never gets easier. So if I had done this a while back, kind of like right near when I did it all, it probably would have been easier than waiting until like further down the line when I have less and less energy. But tonight I feel really good actually, and that's great. So I'm here now, and oh man, I have a lot to tell you. Shorthand version is it all went well. The line got placed. It's like right here. You can kind of see the bandage. I won't show it off here because I know some people are super queasy about it. I might like in another video, but not without some sort of like warning. Not that it's gross. It's actually pretty cool and like nice and covered and everything. I actually got the like the Mercedes-Benz of central lines. It has all of the extras. It has like a stat lock, which is a little like really sticky thing that gets put on your skin that the central line actually locks in place. So if the line gets pulled at all, it gets pulled against the where it's locked in and not the actual line where it's, you know, not supposed to move. So that's really nice. I've had a PICC line in my arm before that I don't think had that, and that was very nerve-wracking. And actually, one of the reasons we had to get it removed and kind of adjust treatment then was that it got moved and pulled out of place, and my nurse actually was like, "Oh, fix it," and like shoved it back in like 2 inches. And so I was like, I don't think you're supposed to do that. So I asked my doctor about it, and they all like freaked out. They were like, "Go get it pulled right now. This is bad. You're good." Like, oh man, I was pretty sure the interpretation was, "You're lucky you're not already dead." No, but it's not that serious, and nothing happened and nothing came of it. So yeah, Statlock's pretty awesome. It also has like, we got these special ends for the line that make it, there's like a pressurized spring thing in it that when you put saline or heparin, which is an anti-clotting thing that you want to keep in the line when you're not, you know, actively using any antibiotics or, you know, something's bled through it. And so I guess it keeps pressure on that and makes sure that, like, I don't know, it doesn't take a little bit of blood in or out. So because of the way that the little end piece is designed, I don't ever have to lock the line manually. Like, it has like a little pinch lock on it. Which, I don't know, after 9 or 10 months that would make me nervous, like keeping it pinched shut all those times and opening and closing it, that it would possibly like damage the line down the road. So it's really nice to just have the fancy end things. We actually had to buy those ourselves because it's not exactly covered, but fortunately they weren't very expensive, and I learned all about medical supplies you could buy online. It's a lot, apparently. I think they would have sent me, like, butterfly needles. I'm not sure they should do that. The lines also at the end have, like, a little green cap to keep germs out, which is great because that's also something that wasn't provided with my PICC line when I got it back in the day. And we actually ended up, like, the nurse was like, "Oops," and gave us a bunch, so we just rationed those and used them while I had the PICC line. That was before I knew I could just go online and buy medical supplies, so now even if they weren't providing them, that's probably something we would end up getting ourselves, you know, because it makes you feel so much better, not just have, like, even the fancy end that we have, it's kind of exposed at the base of it, just have, like, a little green cap that has a little alcohol swab in it, and you just, like, click it into place, and then you're like, okay, people can breathe around me now. So yeah, I guess that was the short version of the story, that everything went really well, and I'm just finishing my first week of sort of the second run of antibiotics and stuff. I finished the first month and saw my doctor, and then they made a couple adjustments. And so this month is actually supposed to be a harder month, antibiotic-wise, but I don't know. I kind of felt a little better the last week or so. And I don't know whether to be concerned, because one of the things that happens when you treat Lyme traditionally is you have what's called a Herxheimer reaction, or Herx for people with the Lyme lingo. We have our own slang. That's not good. Maybe we can get gangs, Lyme gangs. But anyway, Herxheimer reaction is when your body's like just trying to get rid of all the stuff that's dying, and you've also like kind of poked the bee's nest a little bit. And all the bacteria and stuff are all riled up, and ones that were dormant were now waking up because something's trying to kill them. So they want to, I guess, not have that happen. So anyway, all that accumulates to you feel much worse. Normally, when I've had it happen, it's been just a lot like the flu, which really makes sense because if your body is like kicking in to try and help kill something, that's akin to what happens when you have a fever with the flu and like are achy and that sort of thing. And it's really similar. So hopefully that means my body's still fighting tooth and nail this thing. But so yeah, I don't know why I feel good today. I hope that's not a bad sign. Maybe it's a good sign. I don't know. But anyway, I have a whole bunch to tell you guys about like getting the line placed and like learning how to change the dressing and all that. And the antics that ensued, which normally you don't want antics to happen when you're getting medical procedures and learning how to do medical things yourself. But oh man, guys, this was great. So this adventure started out with me going to the hospital, and we found this really good hospital that was, in my insurance thing, and drove like 2 hours to get there. And this hospital had like the exact department that we needed to go, which is interventional radiology, if anyone's ever curious. And so we drove like 2 hours to go to this really great place with like good doctors and like quality ones. We could have done it here locally, but this is someone that, does this all day, every day, and that's their job. So I felt really good about going there. So we get there, get me settled in, and I meet all the nurses who are fantastic. They were so delightfully cliche. Like you could tell they were the ones in the hospital that knew what was up and had a good rapport going. It was really fun, and they were really nice. But like, okay, so there's the attending doctor, and there is the resident who's basically just out of school and learning how to actually do hands-on the job that he's trained for. So I actually get a attending doctor and a resident, and I met the resident first because the nurse was taking my all my meds and history and that sort of thing, and he came in and didn't realize he interrupted her in the middle of the job, and she looked real unhappy about that. And this poor guy, he must have been kind of new, because he just, did not exude confidence and, seemed nervous and, realized halfway through he had interrupted the nurse and was like, oh, sorry, and, left again. And the moment he left, the nurse turns to me and goes, it is your right as a patient to request that the attending doctor be the one to place the line. I was like, geez. I mean, okay, yeah, you don't ignore a warning like that from staff that knows what's up. And so I felt really bad about it because, he's got to place a line at some point. I don't know if I was the first line he was going to do fresh out of school, but it's like, okay, that sounds important. We drove all this way to have an expert do this. This is going to be with me for 9-10 months, maybe. Hopefully sometimes they only go 8 if it's a really best case scenario, but 9 months, it's going to be with me a while. I want to make sure that it's placed well, and that just for my own psyche, when things feel weird or out of place, which, things are going to feel out of place because you've had a tube put into your body. So taking all that into account, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to ask the attending doctor to be the one to place the line because that would make me feel the best right now, and I think it's the best idea. And I felt bad because the time to ask him was when he and the resident came in, and I'm like, shoot, I'm gonna have to right in front of the resident be like, I want him to do it, not you, which seemed super harsh, but But I went ahead and like kind of apologetically say, hey, I'd really like for you to be the one to do the procedure. And, you know, I hope that's okay. And I look over at the resident to like, you know, glance at him apologetically, but he's in the back and his face is just like, yeah, that makes sense. So like, I don't know, like he looked super relieved and like he would have made the same decision if he was in my place. So I ended up not feeling too bad. Dude, though, my favorite is just the nurse being like, it is your right as a patient. And I was like, jeez. Anyway, so yeah, I got the Lyme place. It all went really smoothly. It actually hasn't hurt as bad as I was kind of worried about. In fact, I think the worst of it was they put a block in, which is where they basically numb a nerve cluster, and then it like takes care of everything. And well, not everything, but make sure that like the whole area is numb so that they can do the procedure without, you know, hurting you. But that hurt so bad. Like we were driving to the doctor the next day and I was like doing robot turns instead of turning my head. And my mom was like, is it that bad? Like, can you really not turn your head? I was like, if I had to, I could turn my head right now, but I just prefer not to. So the next day we went to the doctor's office and got the meds that we were going to take and all the supplies needed for that, like the tubing and the saline and heparin and dressing changes and everything like that. And they also taught us how to care for the line. So like, you know, not to get it wet. And they also taught us how to change it, which was an adventure because my mom had to learn all these things, like how to stay sterile when putting on sterile gloves and how to change a wound dressing, which is, well, not a wound dressing, but I guess maybe. But that was just nerve-wracking for her. We kind of knew that's what we were getting into. And my sister, who's a nurse, came down with us, which was fantastic because she knew how to do all of this and she could, you know, help my mom for the first few times change the dressing until she got really confident at it. And she was great. I loved having her around. And the poor girl, she had to spend the next, like, 2 weeks putting up with me calling her, being like, is this normal? Is it okay? Am I gonna die? She was so patient. She was so nice. And I'd, like, send her pictures of, like, I think the line moved. And she'd be like, no, you're fine. Don't worry. So she was so nice to have on my team while we're doing this. So you'd think, like, learning how to change a dressing would be the, like, most stressful part about this whole thing. But actually, so, okay, we were halfway through changing the dressing. Like, we had just gotten all the stuff off. We'd gotten the stat lock off. We'd gotten the cover off. We'd gotten the plastic off. We gotten the BIOS patch off. Like, it was just, like, at the most critical moment of we have to stay sterile and I have to not move and all this stuff. And the fire alarm goes off. And we all, like, take a moment and look at each other. And then someone sticks their head in and is like, we have to go. And I was like, shoot, oh no. And so the nurse was a champ. She, like, snapped into I'm doing this mode and got sterile really fast but carefully and put a stat lock on and locked into place. And put a thing on, and put a dressing on so it wasn't going to move. And actually, remember earlier when I told my mom that I could turn my head if I have to? She goes to put the thing on, and she's like, I need you to turn your head as far as you can. And I was correct. I could turn my head. So, know thyself, I guess. So anyway, we get the dressing, as much of the dressing on as we definitely need in an emergency. And we file out. And, oh my gosh, guys. If I didn't respect this doctor that we're going with before, I do now, because while everyone was evacuating, he waited in the place to make sure that we got out and, like, made sure he was the last one out, which was just like, aw, thanks. So that was really cool. So we all file out and we wait for the emergency people, and I am, like, really kind of shaken at this point. It was really kind of scary because, you know, at that point, I was in a position that was, like, super vulnerable, and, you know, my line was exposed to all the world in its germs, and, like, I couldn't proactively do anything except lie as still as possible. So I got out there, and, like, my mom hugged me, and I kind of, like, teared up. Okay, I cried. Sorry. But I didn't cry until I got out there. It was after, like, everything was done. But man, I was on that table waiting for them to finish the dressing, and I'm like, we're only on the second story. We can jump. What? That's a couple of broken bones at most? The bones heal. That's cool. We can do that. I was making plans to, evacuate the building via window if the worst case scenario. But fortunately, no worst case scenario happened. And it turns out somebody was smoking in the stairwell. And so that's neat. So all this drama, but actually it was a little bit more scary because a week before that, they had actually had a fire and had to evacuate. So this was like on the heels of an actual event. So everyone was kind of shaken. I laughed really hard because as we were in line waiting to get back, I was super shaken and my mom was being great. And I look over and there's like this chihuahua and he's just like standing there and I'm kind of over here like just standing there. And I look over at him, I'm like, I get it. So at the moment that chihuahua was my spirit animal and kind of like made me laugh a lot in retrospect. So we get back in and we, do the dressing properly and take our time and get everything done and got our big bag of medicine and supplies and everything and went back home and put it all into practice and finished our first month of antibiotics, which wasn't actually too bad. They prescribed me like some anti-nausea pills and stuff just in case I needed it. And guys, nausea is one of those things that I'm not great with. I have a great pain tolerance. All this other stuff, all the symptoms I can kind of like manage and still live with and be okay emotionally, mentally, and be like, I can get through this. But nausea, that one knocks me out. I'm like, I'm probably gonna die. Maybe that would be okay because this feels so bad. And I hate it. I hate it so much. So I know that nausea is something that's really common when going on the antibiotics and things. So I was like bracing for the worst and, for a really bad Herxheimer reaction or something like that. And it wasn't all that terrible, actually. They said that the first month is supposed to be like more gentle and easier. And they just use like a broad spectrum antibiotic to see how the patient's going to respond to antibiotics, how severe the Herx is, and kind of like just test the waters. So it wasn't too bad. Like I felt like I had fevers some and that sort of thing. And yeah, I felt like I had the flu. Also, I was like recovering from getting the line placed and getting the dressing changed and fearing for my life. So I was really tired after all that. Oh my goodness. And my shoulder was all still healing up. And so that could have also been a lot of the reason that I've been tired the last month. And maybe like just now recovering from that side of things. And now just we'll face the antibiotics, which I can do it, guys. I can do it. It's fine. It's not like every person I've talked to has said that this is the hardest thing that they've ever done, but they're so glad they did it that, I don't know, maybe it's better to brace for the worst. So that like, yeah, I can do this. So that was the adventure. And again, I'm sorry it took me so long to kind of retell this, but unfortunately, my health kind of comes first, so I have to, make sure that I'm not gonna be a detriment if I take the time to like record and edit and try and have at least semi-washed hair when I record these. That was actually the biggest problem with recording is like I would be like, if I want to record, I need to wash my hair. But then if I wash my hair, I'm not going to have the energy to record. And I think next time I'm just going to buy a hat because that breaks the cycle and fixes everything. So maybe the next video will be a hat video and you all know why, because my hair will be really gross. I don't know what the future hold. If it does get harder from here on out, I don't know when videos would happen, but I absolutely promise that at the end of all this, I will upload a video and let you know how it went. And also, like, on Twitter and Instagram, I've been posting some, and you can, like, make sure I still live there, which I will. Don't worry. That's not a concern. So yeah, thanks for watching, and listening to my stories, and I hope they were at least a little entertaining. All right. Thanks for watching, you guys. Bye. Guys, Omeel's up there. And I'm pretty sure 101 for hygiene and keeping things sterile is not to let your cat step on it. But she moved now. Look, just don't tell anyone, okay?